Hey, welcome to the Huntsville Hustle Podcast, where we share stories of grit, growth, and greatness right here in the Huntsville area. And today we're joined by Nancy Finnegan. She's a talented makeup artist, a freelance makeup artist, a watercolor painter with over a decade of experience. And she's got a story of resilience as well as creativity. And she embodies the hustle it takes to thrive as an artist and an entrepreneur. Hey, Nancy, welcome to the show.
Hi there. Thanks for having me on here today.
Absolutely. So I mentioned that you kind of embody that hustle part of the Huntsville hustle. So I want to kind of bring it back. So can you share how your children's health kind of pushed you into finding a creative, flexible position that you could take care of the finances, but as well as their health?
Yeah, so I did not know I would be a makeup artist. It was just one of those things that I wanted to get out of the house when I was a stay-home mom. And then when my children were little, and the last one was in school, I just wanted to get out of the house for a little bit, 15 hours a week, work something. So I just got a job at the mall. And then when my kids got diagnosed with their disease, I then asked for a divorce, and then I had to work. So that's when I was working at the mall full time. That wasn't my thing. Then all the years I felt that I had to stay home with my kids. Now I was working 2 nights a week until not getting home till 10 after I became a single parent. And then I had to work weekends. And so it was one of those things I just prayed about. I wanted to get out of working there, but it was very scary because I had a son in college at that time, and one in middle school, one in high school. And no one knew who I was. I was just a makeup counter girl, but I went on faith and just, took some jobs at photographer friends for a little bit, like, hey, can I at least answer your phones for, until I get my name out there? Cause I was like, okay, wow, I need an income. So I did that for a little bit. And then my name started getting circulated and, making connections. I started networking really heavy, but their illness, as far as with my career, it really, if I had an office job, I would have been fired, and their illness, put me into the community has poured into me. So as far as I know, like Huntsville is one of those cities that I know personally really rallies and comes together for their own. So their illness has pushed me to work full time, make this my career so I could be adaptable to them. And when I've had to be adaptable, clients have been like, well, when are you going to be out of the hospital with your child? Or when are you coming back from your son's bone marrow transplant? And I will book my makeup lesson then, or I will schedule my photo shoots around you. Because, I don't work, I don't get paid. So mine's not, it's based on people wanting makeup done or now watercolor commissions done. So I'm thankful for their illness, which they're doing well now, but I'm thankful that all that happened because it really has changed me. And I say Huntsville is this, I'm from Houston, but Huntsville is the city that grew me. This is where I became. And I feel like it's been a beautiful story. God has a plan, and that plan was, to give them a purpose in life, and it gave me a purpose in life. And I think we're very, very fortunate that through their illness, we all have found our purpose. So very thankful.
Wow. That's an amazing story. I mean, it's amazing what you can do when you have to do it, right? When this has to work. It's amazing what you'll do and what you'll go to. So hey, shout out to those mall workers. My first job ever was at the mall, Montgomery Ward. No longer with us, RIP Montgomery Ward. I used to take my breaks at Orange Julius. If those are still around, I have no idea.
Oh yeah, that's not around either. Yeah.
Oh yeah, man.
Go Parkway, play small. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough times. But yeah, I was in the warehouse in Montgomery Ward. Great job. Nobody bought anything, so I didn't have to do anything. Just sat in the warehouse.
Oh no, that's nice. That's nice to not have to sell.
While they're out of business. So as far as the makeup side goes, your style is kind of describe that classic, timeless look. But how would you describe it?
Well, you just described it how I would. Well, I was in high school in the 80s. We know what the 80s were like, bad hair, bad makeup. And I think everybody who is around my age can look back at that era and cringe. And so I knew when I started makeup, that's what I wanted my style to be, is classic and not cringe-worthy years later. I mean, we did not know that decades later, people would be dressing up as us to make fun of us at parties. We were just having our moment. So I try not to follow trends. And, we have them, teenagers, everybody has their era of what a trend is. And, you got to let them. That's part of being a teenager, right? You follow a trend, whatever. But for me, my style is going to be timeless, classic, elevated enhancement of yourself. I can do a glamorous look. I could do a heavy, smoky eye. I could do a very colorful look on somebody. But that client's not going to be my come back to me client all the time. That's a very specified client. I want the woman who wants to feel confident. I want the woman, the girl who wants to look like herself on her wedding day, but still better than herself because it's the most special occasion day. I want people to know that they can get their photos done and still look natural and not have to put a whole bunch of makeup on.
So if someone comes to you and say, I need glamour shots, like the old school glamour shots, could you pull that off if you had to?
Absolutely. I might not post that photo, or if I do post a photo of like a very heavy, heavy look, I'm usually going to follow it by a natural look before and after. I don't want the heavy makeup client. And I've been true to my work for my whole career. It's been that way. Like I said, I can do it. And with clients that come to me for a while, eventually I'll be like, let's do something fun. Let's give you a heavier look and see. And they like it. But if I were to start off with that, I probably wouldn't get a repeat client.
There's not enough white rain to go around anymore. The ozone layer cannot take any more white rain. So we'll have to move on from that. So
Yes. Yes.
you work with a variety of clients, from, like you mentioned, weddings, photo shoots, special events, things like that. What's your process you go through to kind of help them find that exact look that they're looking for?
I ask a lot of questions. And I would say, earlier we talked about how my kids have helped me with my career and stuff. They even helped me with my makeup career. And what I mean by that is my children are 25, almost 30 next week, and then 33. So they've either been the ages of my clients or are the ages of most of my clients. So I have experience with what that age group is like. And so them being my children and the way that they are have helped me figure out my clients. So I usually work backwards. I never ask a client, like, what do you want to look like? I never. Because now I give them a responsibility. And so the way I figure that out is just using things that I've learned from, having my own children is, well, what do you not like? What do you not want? What is your event like? What are you wearing? Okay, girl, you're having a sit down wedding and everybody's having their meal served to them instead of a buffet, and it's at the Legis and it's an evening. Okay, we're going to go glamorous. We're not going to do a little, I don't want hardly any makeup on. You need to, you have a glamorous setting. You need to match that. And so to me, it's very, very important to match the occasion with the makeup. I think the hair needs to match it. The makeup needs to match it. The attire needs to match it. So the way I figure out what to do for all my clients is asking a lot of questions, and none of them is really about makeup. It's about the environment and the experience they're about to have.
I don't care what kind of business you're in. We should all be asking a lot of questions, right?
Absolutely. When we're conversing with people, when we're in any kind of business, if you're leaving your house and you are going to sit down and have a conversation with you, or tea or coffee, cocktail, lunch with anybody, that's your time. Don't you want to make it worthy? When I'm working, I want it to be worth my time too. I want to know a lot about my subject. They matter. They're not just, okay, give me that, money transaction. It's more than that for me.
Yeah. She's supposed to be interested, not interesting, right? Isn't that the quote?
Exactly. Yes.
I want to move over kind of to the watercolor side of your business. I think that's pretty unique that not many people know about. How did you get into that side of things?
Oh, Jesus. It was right before COVID. My daughter was moving home from the University of Minnesota, and I was getting her room ready for her to move home. It was in November of 2019. And I came across her watercolors. That's a slow season for me. November, December, January, slow for me. So I was empty nester, and I, would just dabbled. I was like, I wonder what I could do with this, because I am a pretty artistic person. I was one of those kids in high school whose things would go like to panoply, something like that. But I have never done watercolor, and I hadn't even drawn or sketched in like probably 20 years. And so I just, was tootling around with it. Painted a painting of my friend's cat and gave it to her for dinner. And a friend of mine who was at that dinner party saw it right at the beginning of COVID. And she was like, wow, I really like what you did for, our friend. And she was like, well, can I commission you to paint my dog? And I was like, oh, didn't even think of it. And that was just now the beginning of COVID. I couldn't work because makeup, we had to shut down. And I was like, I guess so. So I did it. And within 4 hours of me posting it, I got 12 commissions. And so then it was like, I guess I'm painting now. So it's been one of those things that, again, my faith in God, I think it was like God knew what was going to happen, showed me I had this talent and took care of me. And so now that, is something that I really, really enjoy doing. I have 2 careers, and a lot of my people who commission me are my clients who have been my makeup clients, or people who have given one of my commissions to a friend as a gift. Then they've liked it, so they wanted more for themselves or to keep giving. So it's just one of those things that, again, when we talk about connections, one thing leads to another, which leads to another. And, before you know it, you're growing your circle.
Wow. Yeah, I love hearing all the pivot stories from COVID. I mean, it was a horrible time, obviously, but so many business owners got creative and found other avenues, just like yourself, that,
yes,
hey, this continues to go on that probably would have never happened if it hadn't happened.
I'm thankful for COVID, and I never had it personally, but I'm thankful that it happened, because I think we really needed a reset. People had very devastating experiences. Some cities, some states had very devastating experience. So for that, I'm not happy. But I think with what I've gone through with my children, I'm always looking at the positive, like, okay, what can I get out of this? This is like not a good situation, but what can I get from this so that I don't dwell on it not being a good situation?
That's it. I mean, that's all you can really do in a situation like that. So just take it and move on and just do your best to get through it.
I agree.
That's it. You've been at this for a while. So what do you think is the biggest compliment you've gotten on your work? It could be your makeup. It could be the watercolor. What's the biggest compliment you've given?
Well, it's going to always be when a client is a repeat client and then when a client refers me. And as far as like social media, when a client remembers to tag me, which is always, I feel like a makeup artist is always still the, no offense, redheaded stepchild. It's just a term that people use because I get negative Nancy, so I get it, and I'm like, okay, it takes a team. Don't forget to mention the team. If you're doing something that takes like a hairdresser, a makeup artist, and a stylist to take that photograph, mention them too. It means a lot because it means somebody could look and like, I know that somebody had their photos and I liked the way that looked. And did they use a makeup artist? And they go back and look at their friend like, oh yeah, there she is. She was tagged, whatever. So tagging and referring is going to mean a lot to me. And coming back, being a repeat client.
That's the ultimate compliment, right? That referral.
Absolutely. And it's free. It's free. You don't, you don't have to pay for that transaction. Just refer. Even if you've never been in my chair, but you've seen my work, I'll be like, hey, like Joe referred me to you. Like I've never done your makeup, but you've seen my work. And I'll be, oh my gosh, Joe. And I personally try to reach out like, hey, Joe, thank you so much. Casey just came in and she said you referred her. I appreciate that. Is making sure I follow up.
That's it. So do you have any industries or businesses that are good referral partners for you?
Well, it's always going to be those who can use my services, photographers, videographers, people who are having commercials, but really anybody, are good business partners, florists, wedding planners, stylists, those kind of people. But even like a lot of my clients are realtors. There's a lot of realtors here in Huntsville. So really anybody, because they need headshots. They need professional headshots. I do make for a lot of them. People who own magazines, the Scouts Guide, you met with Dawn recently. I saw that podcast. You met with Amy, and both of those are my friends and clients, and I work for their magazines. So people like that, just having those connections. A lot of people, anybody would be a good business partner.
Yeah, everybody's got to get that professional headshot. You want to look your best. That thing's going to be around for a while.
And they're very, very important, even like for college students. I know when my daughter went to University of Minnesota, she needed a professional headshot for her ID card. And I was like, what? Like, I remember my son's when he went to Alabama, he had his baseball cap on, and it was just like, almost like taking your driver's license. Like, okay, hurry up, stand up against the wall. It's done. And you're like, what? And I was like, wow, she needed a professional headshot for her ID. Okay.
Yeah, my college ID looked like a mugshot. It was not
yeah, right. Yeah.
It definitely wasn't professional.
I've even done it for people who are getting their driver's license done. Because, they don't edit those photos and they literally are there like within 2 seconds taking your photo. You're done. And you're like, that's it? Like, can I see it? You can't ask that.
They don't care. They do not.
No, they don't.
So if you could change one thing about the business environment in Huntsville, what would it be?
Oh, goodness. I don't really know. I think we have a lot of really good business owners, but I would say that your success is going to make the success of others. So not so much change, but for people to remember to be mindful of your success only matters to you. But if you want your community that you live in to be successful and to do good and to everybody else to do well, remember to not only self-promote, but to promote others and to want success for other people. It could be the food industry, workout industry, training industry, makeup. And it doesn't have to be my same industry. It's just to remember, do stuff for others that have their own business, that are doing their own hustle as well.
That's right. Hey, man, it's rough out here. Small business, so we need to support each other.
It is. I mean, word of mouth really matters. Social media plays a very, very important role too. But I think people go through phases of not wanting to be on social media, or they do get on there. People entertain themselves however they want to entertain themselves. So social media works for a certain demographic. Some people, I know like people who are more like CEOs and stuff like that, they're not even managing their own pages. You're not going to reach them through like TikTok or something like that. So just, try to help other businesses out no matter what you're doing. We're very fortunate to live here. Huntsville is unique. Now, I don't know what it's like to live anywhere else and run my own business because I've done it here, but I have a feeling that other places are not as fortunate as Huntsville is.
Yeah, I think we do pretty good.
I think so.
Cool around it.
I agree. I agree.
Kind of in the same vein. What's your biggest pain point right now as a business owner?
Oh goodness, biggest pain, social media, but it's also one of the biggest things I do for business. Biggest pain is going to be people wanting to follow other people's success and want to be there at the beginning without seeing what that person did to get there. So it's not my own personal pain. I guess this is more advice for other people. If you want to be a makeup artist, don't look where me or a few other well-established makeup artists are now and expect to be there. Biggest pain is people not wanting to put the work in, not wanting to get the right credentials to be where they are. Like what you do is very specific with both your businesses. You can't just get out there and like, you know what? I want to have a podcast and get a microphone and start talking to people. There's some things I'm sure you had to look into, what kind of apps to get, what kind of setup you need, even with training, what kind of equipment. You had to learn the body for people because certain people are going to have different needs. It's educating yourself. And like, I guess if I were to have to say something geared more towards my makeup artist work would be people wanting to charge a lot for not having the experience or the knowledge, which ends up giving makeup artists or people in the industry a bad reputation because they want the glamour and the money, but they don't see the work, and therefore it doesn't match with what they're charging.
I see that in the personal training industry as well, that, a couple of bad apples make us all
Yes.
look like if you
Yes.
look at like TV shows and movies, the personal trainer is always this like dumb guy who's sleeping
Yes.
with people's wives and stuff. It's like, man, that's not our representative. So I love
No,
when
you
I see
actually
other.
you're smart. You need to know a lot more about your body, and it's our body. Why do we not know a lot about it? Why do we not know how our body works? And you come in and you have that knowledge, and you could show that to somebody else, explain it to somebody else. Then the light bulb kind of goes on in your client, and they catch on. But really, we are walking around as humans not knowing how our body works.
It's too much to learn. I'll let someone else. Yeah, outsource that to somebody. So, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
It's your fault. It's your fault. It wasn't advice that I was given to myself. It's that somebody gave to me. I mean, it was something I heard on a podcast, and it's your fault. If you're doing well, it's your fault. If you're not doing well, it's your fault. Is have ownership no matter what you're doing. Have ownership when you do well. Have ownership when you fail. And we got to fail. We got to fail. And we got to learn from it. I enjoy failing. In fact, when my kids used to go to school every day, there was two things I would tell them. Give something away for free. That's a smile. Give somebody a smile today. How did you screw up today? How did you fail? Name something that you failed at, because you need to. You need to fail. And a lot of people look at failure as something as, I'm just not accomplishing anything. No, it's something you accomplished learning how you didn't accomplish something. So now what are you going to do? And not everybody's strong enough to learn from that, and I'm very fortunate that I am. And I do recognize when people aren't. And I feel like a lot of people aren't. Failing is the process. Everybody, the more you can accept your failure and learn from it, you're going to be better. You're going to be better. But if you accept it and feel like that's it, I'm giving up. I can't, I'm just not good at this. No, it's determination. I'm not going to let this conquer me.
Because you are going to mess up. I look at the most successful entrepreneurs I know. They have messed up 1,000 times, but learned from it, like you said, and kept on going.
Yeah.
And the greatest part of your first piece of advice, that it's your fault. But guess what? That means you can also fix it. So I think it's actually encouraging when you find out, hey, this is my fault, but it's also my responsibility that I can take care of this. So that's really good advice. I like that right there.
Yeah. I like that too. So I heard that on a podcast. I can't remember. I listened to a lot of podcasts, probably about a year and a half ago. And I was like, wow, that was life changing. Yeah, it's your fault. Oh, that doesn't have to be a bad thing either. It's like, oh, it's my fault. I'm doing well. I did this, with the help of others, of course, but it was all because I accepted failure. I accepted help. I, accepted learning.
If you don't want that responsibility, you probably shouldn't own a business. That's
No.
just
100%.
So kind of, you mentioned it a little bit there. So who would you like to thank for helping you become successful along the way? None of us do it by ourselves. So who's someone you'd like to?
Of course, there's always the generic thing. God, for sure, because I did not set out to be a makeup artist. I did not set out to be a watercolor artist. I didn't know I would do any of those things. And actually, I'm not into makeup, but I've been doing this for almost 20 years. I'm into learning about makeup. I'm not into makeup for myself. I've never been that person who's like, oh my gosh, I love makeup. This is what I want to do for a living. I love researching. I love what it does for my clients. I love the the self-esteem I give them. So I would thank God for showing me I could do that and for showing me that I have a talent that I can use to make money. And again, I get to do stuff. I get to have things hanging in people's house, sentimental things. So now I get to do makeup to give people self-esteem and encouragement. And then I get to have sentimental items that I get to paint for people for them to have as mementos, to give as gifts or for themselves. So, and I thank myself for allowing myself to learn and to accept God's grace in what he shows me. And of course, my children. Because they are my biggest supporters. They're my moral compass. No matter what I do is with work, with people is how would I want my children to be treated if I were talking to them and I wasn't their mother. So I try to always put them on anything I do is how would I treat my children? Would I want somebody doing this to my child? So my children for teaching me so much about myself that I could put that back into my business. Definitely my children and clients in the community for supporting me, but the children and God are way, way up there.
Family is a huge motivator. I mean, that's for me too. When I think about, I train women for a living, so I think about how would I like another trainer to treat my mom if they came to her class. And my mom actually comes to my classes. That's I can kind of point to, hey, I don't want to treat her just like everybody else. So
wasn't that amazing though when you got to do teach your mom what you do for a living and she got to see in that light. I got to get my daughter-in-law ready to marry my son last year. That was like the best feeling ever. I love it, my experience with all my clients, but that was special. She's got her face ready to marry my son. I knew she would like it. But I also want to make sure that my son liked the way that she looked. So yes, I'm glad you had that wonderful experience with your mom.
Yeah, same. So who in the local business community, who's someone you admire?
As far as business, I'm going to say Amanda Howard. She's a good friend of mine, and her because of, I know her personally as a friend and what she does in her business, the way she treats people, the way she trains people. She wants to enrich and better people. And one of the things with that is I see and know her personally. She's busy. She's busy all the time, but she doesn't forget to connect. She doesn't forget to respond. And when I see people who leave you on red or whatever and they don't respond, we're all busy. We all are. We all have the same amount of time in the day. So that's like if I can't respond to somebody right away, I at least say, hey, I saw it. Give me a minute because I want to take the right time to do that. And I see that Amanda does that too. And we get together and we talk about it all the time. Like, why aren't more people like us? Why aren't more people like at least responding? Like, let people know they matter. And if you know Amanda Howard, she lets you know you matter. Like she remembers details and things about people. And she's just a delight and smile. But outside of her, I'm going to say it's not really business people. It's more philanthropists, them finding a cause or something that is special to them and going with that because working in nonprofit is very, very difficult. And, you rely on a lot of donations and people who have a heart for what you have a heart for. And I actually started a nonprofit and I realized it takes a lot of work. So maybe when I'm retired, I could pour into that. But philanthropists for sure, more so than business people because I don't know. I think my passion lies with helping community others.
Yeah, with Amanda Howard, success leaves clues, right? You want to get to her level. Look at what she does. That's one thing she does. That hey, she makes people realize that they matter. Man, isn't that what we all want? So if she can do that, as busy as she is, running whatever she's doing in the world, she's doing 100 different things at a time. If she can do it, we can all do it, right?
Yeah, we can. I mean, we all have our energy levels and capacity. Like I would say, I'm not a lazy person, but I'm not a fast hustling person. I'm not like, what can I do now? What can I do? I know when to stop and relax and to sit down. Never lazy. My mind's always going 24/7. But it takes a hustle, but it also takes to be successful. I think you need to know when you got to say no, when to set your boundaries and when to, it's okay to sit down because, you're not going to be better and improving if your body and brain is tired. You're going to plateau. And same thing with training and anything. You're not going to be your best if you keep going and you don't rest and you don't find joy somewhere.
Oh, well, I was about to ask you for some advice on starting a business, but I think you just answered that one. I think you think you have to run 100 miles an hour at all times, but that's not sustainable. There are times when you're going to have to, like you said, hustle more.
Yeah, you got to get your name out there. You got to do the work to get to where you can be where. I still always have to hustle. I still always want the money and want the client and want the experience that I'm having with that person. But it's nice to know that, kind of put that in, and do less of this or that. It's not a glow up, in my opinion, to say, oh man, I'm just working all day long. The glow up is knowing when to know to stop so that you can recharge. Because, for instance, I used to always tell my kids, put the books away at 10. They'd look at me when they were in school like, but I still have like, no, your brain's tired. Put it away. But mom, like, no, just wake up an hour earlier tomorrow. What you're struggling with the night before, because your brain's tired, it's going to take you 10 minutes in the morning when it's not tired. And I was always right. And so like when your brain's tired, you're not feeding yourself. And you look at the work the next day and you're going to like, okay, God, that was bad.
My mom never had to worry about that because I didn't bring books home. Not a very good student. So my brain was all
But that's
filled
okay
up.
because your smartness, your knowledge did not come from being a good student. You had a different purpose. And that's one of the things that I feel like a lot of people think that just an education, which an education is important, but don't be worried about the kid who's doodling and not paying attention. I just saw this thing that recently that some kid, 13-year-old kid in class was always doodling. He has $1 million contract with Nike now, and he's 13. But, so let that kid explore. Their strength might not be in English classes, standard environmental learning. Doesn't mean that they're going to be a wasted person down the road and not, be good in society. Their strengths, find out what your child's strength is, your partner's strength is, and feed into that. It might not be yours or what society thinks you should have, but you got to embrace that because we all are colorful and we all are where we are because we found what we find. And some people, like you're only successful if you're going to be an engineer or an accountant or something like that. What you want to build video games? Like, how is that going to bring you success? Says the person who plays video games. You're playing video games all the time. So somebody, parent, or believed in them and let them do that, So we are, as a community, everybody has different successes. Feed your child or whoever's, find out what that is, and don't expect them to fit into society's norm if that's not for that specific person.
Yeah, I'd encourage if you're a parent to go look up the 8 intelligences because I think like you talked about, there's there's a school one, there's a sports one, but there's other ones out about some. Maybe they're awesome with nature or animals or something like that. Every kid's unique and has that talent in a different area. It may not be the one that you had, so I would encourage you to look. There's 8 different ones you can look at and kind of feed your kid into that and let that grow and prosper.
Yes, I agree. And podcasts like yours and stuff like that, hopefully we get people out to see things like that. Like, education doesn't just belong in a school. Education belongs in doing things in the community, being bored. Let your children be bored. They will get bored and find what they like to do. They might go out and tinker and stuff in the garage. They might want to take apart your toaster and see how they can put it back together. They might draw. They might realize they can write. You got to let them be bored. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people are lacking. When you're on your phone all the time and they're amused by TikTok, they're amused by other people being interesting. It doesn't seem right,
Yeah.
Like, why don't you become interesting yourself instead of looking at other people's life? Be interesting.
And then you can start your toaster TikTok channel and become a millionaire.
That's right. Like, I am so thankful for the WikiHow people who actually load up a video like, if your vacuum cleaner is causing this sort of issue. And I'm like, I don't know anybody who's ever done stuff like that, but I am so thankful for those who take a video and say, like, if you want to learn how to change your car battery, like, that's how I learned. Thank you, person, for doing that.
Those are unsung heroes. I fixed my dishwasher a couple weeks ago. Shout out to the YouTube guy on that. So there's people out there doing stuff like that. So how can people find you and work with you? How can they follow you and keep up with everything you're doing and work with you?
It's easy. I have one name, Nancy Finnegan, MUA. So even my artist's work is going to be on my social media because I'm not going to deal with several different pages. And I wouldn't have the audience if I started a new page for everything I do. So I just fall into one. You get on Nancy Finnegan MUA on Google, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and you're going to see everything I do. You're going to see my artwork. You're going to see my makeup work. You're going to see some personal stuff on there, but not the personal things. I keep personal, but the public personal stuff. That's so easy. Nancy Finnegan MUA, which stands for makeup artist. So since I do makeup, people think MUA means like moi, like a kiss, And I'm like, no, that's MWAH. But MUA stands for makeup artist.
There you go. I thought it was like the evil, like, mwah.
Yeah.
There you go. So that's it. It's all been that one hub. We'll link that in show notes. People just click on it, go right there and follow you. And
Thank you.
Maybe you got an event coming up or a wedding or something that you need. You got a headshot coming up. So reach out to Nancy. I'll try to get you your best. That thing's going to be around for a while. Might as well be the best possible you, right? Nancy, I appreciate you coming on here and sharing with us. It's been great talking with you.
It's been great talking with you as well. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week on the Huntsville Hustle Podcast.